Drush is a command line tool that we can use to do a lot of the things that we've done in this series, but a whole lot faster. If you haven't used it already, it's probably because either you haven't heard of it or because it is a command line utility and that makes it just a little bit scary. Now, throughout this series, we've been using Git as a version control system, and we've been using the command line in order to manage our repository. And so if you started the series off a little uncomfortable on the command line, chances are you're feeling a little bit better about that now. And Drush is actually very simple to install and begin using right away. Now, the power of Drush will really unfold as you begin to see what it can do, but let me give you just a quick introduction about a few different tasks that we can perform through Drush that will simplify our workflow. So first of all, to clear the cache through the user interface, we first have to make sure we're logged in, and then we need to navigate to configuration, and then performance, and then we need to click clear cache. With Drush, there's just one command. We type drush cc, and the cache is cleared. So each time you clear the cache, you're saving at least 10 seconds or so in this process. And if you're in active development and clearing the cache a lot, then you're going to be doing this a lot, and you'll save a ton of time. Drush has a set of tools that allow you to download and get started with Drupal, the simplest being that we can just download a package from Drupal.org, unpack it, and set up our database. Now, for using the UI, we first have to download Drupal from Drupal.org. We need to unpack the file. We then have to move the entire site into where it's supposed to reside finally. We create our settings.php file. We modify those settings inside of the settings.php file. And then we go through the installer process, which is a multiple step process. With Drush, we can do all of that in 2 steps. We just type drush DL, short for download, and then the name of the Drupal installation we want to download. And then the second command, although it looks a little complex here, is actually pretty simple. It's the site install command. We pass it the name of the profile, standard. We pass it the database URL. We set the name, password, and email of the first account to be created, and it does everything else for us. One more example before we actually get into using Drush. In previous videos, we talked about how to use the features module, and one of the things that really makes working with a feature module a challenge is that whenever we want to update it to reflect changes in our database, we have to export the feature, unpack it, and replace the existing feature module in our Drupal site. But with Drush, we need a single command, drush fu for feature update, and then the name of the feature module to update. We can also use fd in order to review changes. That's short for features diff. So something that could take potentially several minutes can be done in just a couple of seconds with Drush. And this is really just scratching the surface. Here are a few other things we can do with Drush. We can download and install modules in just a couple of commands. We can also do the same thing with themes. We can disable and uninstall modules or themes as well. We can perform core and module updates with a single command. And if you followed along with the process that we went through earlier in order to upgrade Drupal from one minor version to another, then you know that this is a time-consuming, error-prone process. But with Drush, with a single command, we can update core, we can update all of our modules, and run the database update script. Drush also contains a utility to allow us to back up the entire site and the database into a single tar file with a single command. Again, this saves us a ton of time. We can use Drush in order to create new users and assign them or existing users new passwords, and there's some other tools that we have in Drush to work with users, like blocking users or granting users particular roles. One more thing that we'll explore later on is how to package an entire Drupal site, including Drupal core, modules, themes, libraries, and applying particular patches to certain modules in the process. And so Drush, with a single command, can download all of those items, put them together, apply any patches that need to be applied, and in the end, you have a fresh Drupal site complete with the latest versions of Drupal and all of the modules that you installed. So in the following videos, we're going to go through each one of these and explore how to use Drush in order to save you a ton of time, in order to make some complicated processes much simpler, and how to do some things that are just impossible to do through the user interface. So as you've probably been able to tell, I'm pretty excited about Drush, and most developers are as they begin the process of learning about it and learning just how much time they can save and how much more productive they can be using Drush. There's even tools that will allow you to run Drush commands on a remote Drupal site on a completely different server from your local environment. And so with a single tool, you can get a ton done in Drupal really fast. Okay, let's go ahead and install Drush and begin looking at how to use these features one by one.